All right, let's visit this California territory. So James K. Polk is very easily able to, well, not easily, but very able to convince the British to cede this territory. So now we have this whole section. But all of this belongs to Mexico. All of this section here, it's not part of the United States yet, and California is not an independent state yet. All of this belongs to Mexico. So James Polk decides that he really wants, especially this land here. So he sends John Slidell to Mexico in an attempt to buy California. What a great idea. And he tells Slidell that he can negotiate up to $30 million for the sale of California. And Slidell tells Polk in response that Mexico may not agree to this deal. Perhaps we should maybe show a little force and let them see what we're capable of, so that they are more inclined to accept our deal. And so Polk decides he's going to send out the U.S. Navy ships into the Gulf of Mexico while Slidell goes to Mexico to negotiate the sale of California. So as you can imagine, with the ships hanging out here, right, that Mexico doesn't want to negotiate. Mexico sees the U.S. ships and decides, you know what? We're not even going to meet with Slidell. And we're certainly not going to negotiate our land with you. And that should have been the end of it. But again, as I talked about on the other one, unfortunately for Mexico during this time period, gold is discovered in California. So in January of 1848, James Marshall, I don't know what he's doing in California. That's Mexico's land. I don't ask questions. We don't ask these kinds of questions, right? James Marshall is out at Sutter's Mill in California, and he discovers gold. And oh my God, what a life-changing event. Not necessarily for James Marshall, but for the world, for sure. So word spreads super quick through James Marshall's employees, and the men who work at Sutter's Mill all leave to go search for gold. And as they are searching the coast for gold, word spreads through San Francisco. And these residents start to leave to go look for gold in other places in California. And so by the end of the year, thousands of California residents had moved up towards the northern area of California to find gold. Now, obviously, word gets to the United States that there's gold in California, and this is going to make James Polk and the U.S. government really want this land even more because it's super valuable now. The following year, in 1849, thousands of people from everywhere are heading to California to find gold. And it's not just the United States anymore. We have people coming from all over the world to go to California and get rich. And a lot of them are trying to mine the American River. From California, from Oregon and Utah, they're going to the American River. But we have people from all over the world. We have people coming from the East Coast that will sail down around the southern tip of South America and then come back up the West Coast. We have people coming from Panama on the Atlantic coast and crossing over to the Pacific coast. Any ship that stops in South America will take on board people who are looking for gold. So Peruvians and Chileans, a lot of them are joining this search for gold. They're taking boat rides up the coast so they can go search for gold in California. We also have people coming from the other side of the Pacific. Chinese, Hawaiian, many other Asian countries are all coming to find gold in California. And again, it's Mexico's land for a little bit. But if you can't afford the steamship and you want to go find that gold, you will do what you have to do. You'll take a horse, you'll take a wagon, whatever you do to get there. And the year 1849, this is a big year, which is why the San Francisco 49ers are called the San Francisco 49ers. That is a reference to the 1849 gold rush in San Francisco. So there's your continuity over time if you've ever looked for one. But the problem with the gold rush is that most gold's not really there. If you are an independent miner, you're probably not finding a lot of gold. You might get lucky, but the big mining companies, the one that have the money, the one that have the supplies to dig deep into the earth, they're the ones who are going to get the gold. If you're just mining the rivers, you're probably going to get a little bit, but those are just gold deposits. You're not going to find stocks of gold. Of the about $550 million worth of gold found in California between 1949 and 1950, most of that gold goes to big businesses. And just like we like to do best, we don't actually do our own work. We hire Native Americans to work for them. Or we will hire Chinese migrants. But the Chinese migrants end up being some of the most despised people on the West Coast because a lot of miners would mine the base level of their land and not find any gold, and then they would give up and walk away. And then the Chinese migrants would come in and take over digging at these abandoned sites and keep working and find more gold. And so the men who had originally dug these mines felt like they were being used and cheated by the Chinese, which is, again, a continuity that you will see over time. The group that we're angry at changes, but the reasons stay the same. So a lot of Chinese Americans are going to face extreme discrimination. And again, this is before they've built the railroad. And then in 1880, we'll get there. But they are facing extreme discrimination, and they're only about 8% of the whole group that shows up there. And there are lots of anti-Chinese laws that will be passed during this time period. Because, again, for some reason, we just really want to target the Chinese migrants and make them out to be the problem when there's so many other things that you could point to. So the gold rush here, it brings us gold, but not really. It brings the businesses gold. And it will bring us a lot of drama. But our drama in Unit 5 is the Civil War. So we're going to get to our later drama with the Chinese and all that stuff in Unit 6. And I know that doesn't really seem to make sense. Like, why are we going back and forth like that? We just are. Follow along. It's fine. We still don't own this land. We still need to work out a deal with Mexico. And we are going to do something like that, but it's definitely not going to be a deal. And it's definitely not going to work out. So in our next little video here, we are going to look at the problem with Texas and the Mexican-American War and what that really does for us and what it doesn't do for Mexico.